Hello and welcome to today's painting demonstration. I'm going to show you how to paint a layered landscape with lots of forest, trees, and then distant hills just receding into the atmosphere. The reference for this painting is going to be in our community Discord server, and the link is in the description below. So here is a preview of the reference photo. It's just off somebody's back deck. They have a lovely view. I don't know where that is, if you were wondering. Let's get started with our gold underpainting. I have a fresh palette today. What a treat. I have some light pencil work down here just to make sure that I'm keeping track of how much sky to leave available. When you're doing multiple layers, it's nice to have them penciled out a little bit first because you might lose track when you're focusing on your brush strokes. So I'm going to start with the gold, our darkest values. I'm changing the layout of my landscape scene from the reference. You can almost always make improvements on just a photograph that somebody takes. That's part of the advantage of the painting, is you can rearrange things. I was really scared to do this up until recently. I just didn't trust myself to rearrange things in a way that was better, and I was also really afraid to go off reference because then I just didn't know what was happening with the shadows and the light source, and I couldn't just copy it. So just give yourself a break if you're scared to move off a reference photo. It takes a lot of time to feel that kind of comfortable with the subject matter, to be able to improvise your way into a different layout. Foreground layer of trees is going to be kind of a medium value, but then it goes from medium value on this one's like the star of the show, and then the top of this tree is catching the light, which I think is what really attracted me to this scene. And the mountains back here, big mountain is warm on the sun side, and then it gets shadowed when it goes down into the valley. And those hills back there just kind of disappear into the atmosphere. And these are going to be pretty subtle. Okay, I'm going to put just a light amount of gold in the sky, just to cover up the white. That is it for our underpainting. I am done with this brush completely now. Now I'm going to mix some colors for this scene. I'm going to start with the lightest sky blue. Ooh, that's probably even too much. I'm mixing cerulean blue with titanium white. A really light color, and then we'll do more of a medium blue. I'm going to be using that in the diffusion, the shadows of the mountains. There is a lot of blue in this scene. It's going to be very, very blue. And then the warm colors will be the focal points. So the warm side of the mountain, and then also the tree that's catching light in the foreground are going to be our focal points. The green, the dark green is very earthy. I'm going to use the gold to make that green. And I could always brighten that up with some cadmium yellow. Mix one more medium green, and then we can get started. I feel like that's everything we need. Okay, so I'm going to start with a small filbert brush for the sky. Make some nice soft shapes. It's going to be a gradient and possibly some wispy clouds. I have a hard time painting a sky with no clouds. Start with our darkest blue at the top of the painting and then work my way down. There's really not that much sky in this one at all. It's a little bit dark, but it's okay. I cannot tell you how fast acrylics dry on paper. It's really impressive, but I use it to my advantage. That's part of the technique here. Light layers, fast drying. There's our wispies. It happened. Just make sure there isn't any repeating shapes, because that would be weird. Although clouds do that a lot. I'm not gonna lie. Sometimes the cloud patterns will make you kind of impressed at their cookie cutter. Lots and lots of repeating shapes, chopping them all up there. Okay, so I want it to get the horizon line to be a little bit warmer and more diffused. There's some early evening colors coming from off screen. And there we go. Just blending that warm color up into the blue, and I'm going to drag a little bit over the lower clouds. So there's a little bit of a blue line that I can see. So I'm going to go to our lightest blue and just drag down from where it's blended. And then work my way back up. It'll make me feel better to lighten up that side of the sky anyway, so. There we go. Okay, so now we're going to move to the background mountains. And they're super faint, so we'll be using the same colors that we're using right now, just a little, the same gradient, which has become a very soft peach meeting the blue. This mountain is so distant, so far away. Still using the filbert brush, and I'm just like smashing the paint on there so that I get a lot of reveal on the underpainting. I'm going to define the back side of it. When I say back side of the mountain, I'm always referencing the side that is away from the light. A lot of times when I describe a motion or a position that I'm on a subject, I'll say the near side or the far side. Of the near side is always towards the light. The light is a very important aspect of a landscape painting. So you're always painting something and acknowledging the light that's in the scene. I love what's going on here, but I gotta soften up that line because I don't want hard lines dragging you off the painting, and certainly not away from any focal points, so that's a no-go. Now I am dragging the cerulean blue down into the mountains. It's a beautiful shade color, and I'm really putting on the paint very thin so that there's just touches of the gold that are going to shimmer through. It's going to give us a lot of nice texture because it's very far away. There's actually lots of things happening there. There could be houses and branches, and I guess I see little buildings when I really look at the reference photo. We're not going to paint any of that stuff though. That is not the focus here. The sun is on the left side and it's pretty low in the sky. I wouldn't call it sunset though. I would call it early evening. This is like the beginning of golden hour, I suppose. Almost a full cerulean blue over here on the right. That's rare. That doesn't happen. Not very often, but I feel like it's very, very suitable for what we're doing here. I'm gonna lighten that up as I go a little higher up the mountain. Okay, so I'm gonna get a different brush. I need a different brush shape for what's next, for what's to come. I'm gonna grab our flat, our favorite flat. So what's on the sun side of these mountains is gonna be gold, some gold, and then blue for the shadows, but it's much easier to start with the gold, so I'm gonna put that on, get some highlights going, and then we'll do that same cerulean blue over it. I'm gonna leave that one alone. This hill in the middle, it's totally fine, looks great. I'm gonna pick some highlight spots. For this mountain, I'm using the flat brush. I'm gonna make sure that aren't any repeating shapes. I'm gonna really think about where the light is coming from. And also what kind of shape the slope would be making. Now, the reference photo is going to be really informative for this, but you really want to cut the detail and cut any shapes that lead your eye away from where you're going to be looking. We want to be looking, our center focal point is going to be the top of this tree. These lines that go down are all leading us to the focal point. They're called lead lines. So trying to make your shapes in a way that makes sense for the subject and also lead your eye to the focal point, those are all winners. Okay, I'm pretty happy with, well, let's see, pretty happy with the amount of gold on the mountain. Now let's put some shadows on there too. I'm going to be dragging up from the bottom before I incorporate this color into the main part of the mountain, the main face of the mountain. Putting big shapes of shadow on the away side of each of these peaks, and then I'm going to drag interesting shapes down. Making sure that there's no pencil revealing through these really, really light layers of paint that we've put down so far. That all feels pretty good. To me, there's actually, no, there's one little spot. Just gonna give that part a little bit of definition. There we go. Just a little bit of definition for the tops there. And I'm blending the edge that goes towards the mountain. I want them to kind of like really belong back there. Okay. Now, the middle tree layer, the darkest value. There's a lot of blue in this color. Just keep that in mind. All the shadows in the scene are extremely blue. All this stuff is happening so far away. Okay, let's just go for it. I'm using a flat. I'm gonna do some tree shapes. I'm going to be rotating my brush in different directions to make this happen. I'm going to drag with the narrow side up to the top of the tree. I'm going to start at the top and then work my way down, rotating my brush to make different shapes. Coming in to make sure that there's some holes and then coming back out to create a branch. And then I'm going to zigzag all the way down the form. I think this guy's going to need a little bit more of a point. There we go. Again, make a trunk, start from the top with the small side of your brush, and then with the tiny side, do the tops of the branches, make sure that there's some exposed trunk, and then work back and forth like you're zigzagging down the trunk. Back, and then forth, and then back, and then forth, and zigzag all the way down. If you zigzag down the tree, you will be less likely to make something that looks too symmetrical. Trunk. Tiny branches. And then zigzag. Zag. Zig. Make sure to connect all your little funky shapes that come out so it looks like it's attached to the tree and not floating out in tree space. Okay, here's this one's bigger because it's at 1/3 of the painting. So features that are at 1/3 of the painting, I make a little bit more bold, just to add some interest. If it's not the center focal point, hopefully you're creating some lead lines with the shape that go to your focal point. You can have more than one focal point. It's just there's like a main one, and then there's others that are also on the journey. trunk, littles, zigzag. Trunk, little, zigzag. I wonder if I can get a song going. Another one, trunk, littles, zig, zag. I am just making sure that these trees have enough paint on the bottoms of them, because that paint was pretty light in some spots. Going back and kind of recoating that. Those are lovely. Okay. There's a really dark tree coming in from off screen, and I think I'm just going to put it in now. I think this is technically in the foreground. That's okay. I could just negative paint around it. Big brush strokes here because this is not our focus. This is off the side of the painting. It does have some really nice valuable lead lines that go up to our well-lit tree, which we have not painted into existence yet, but it'll be there. Lightening up the colors, making them a little bit more saturated as we come up to, I think this is as far as we're going to go with that one, with that shade. Okay, now coming into the foreground, we have more tree shapes, but they're a little bit lighter and more muted in color. That's where this color right here that we mixed is going to come in to play. Although, what I'm going to do to dull it down a little bit more is add some white. A little bit more blue is in the shadow. Just the tips are a little bit warmer, and the bottoms are darker. So let's just start with this color and then we'll work with it. Similar treatment with these bigger trees. Start where your trunk, so you know where everything radiates out from. Even though tree trunks can do some pretty screwy things and go back and forth, it is harder to convey something that's a little odd in paint form. Photography does a better job of that because you can believe it because it's a photo. You're like, wow, what is that tree doing? It's crazy. It has to be true. Photo. Okay, I'm going to darken as we come down. Trying to keep my brush strokes stylish down here. Adding a little bit more ultramarine blue as I get down to the bottom. I'm going to be doing some negative painting to make this blob shape more interesting. And I will add the highlights to the tops at the end. Trunk. Little zigzag. Okay, this is the foreground tree, but there's something interesting happening. So there's a lot of shadow down in here, kind of blends into the background trees. But then it has these light, white, pretty barren branches that come up in front of it. That's going to be something I do last. I'm going to paint those over the top. Let's see, the trunk is pretty gray, so I just need a little bit of gray. That was way too much red. Way accident. I'm gonna push some of that over there. I'm gonna add the green. A little bit of ultramarine blue. All right, there it is. That's the gray we need right there. All right, so here goes nothing on our trunk. Really, really light. And then I can go heavier as we work our way down, and that's just gonna disappear into that foliage right there. Branches are gonna come up like in a U type shape. That's the habit of this tree. I don't know what kind of tree it is, honestly. Some sort of pine. These guys are now dry, which is nice. I can negative paint some shapes into them. Just keep in mind where the trunk is. Try not to do anything that conflicts with that. You do some bigger shapes as you move your way down the tree. Make sure to rotate that brush around. These bigger brush strokes are more stylish, so try to make them really intentional looking. Just take your time with the placement of each one. Okay, I think we can add some highlights to those guys now. They're not, don't get too excited, they're not like super bright highlights. I'm gonna go over to our muted lighter colored green, add just a touch more white, and some water. And I'm just gonna put gently some lighter shapes on the top, maybe 25%. It's okay if we overlap the background. It's okay if we overlap some of the shadowed shapes you just put there. Don't worry about it too much. Just don't paint over the whole thing. These will be darker when they dry. Okay, now the star of the show. Looks like we're gonna need some of this color here. Going to be really delicate and intentional with the shapes I put in for this tree, at least at the top. The bottom is just gonna moosh into the other trees. as it would. I'm adding some gold and some cadmium yellow to the very top of our green blend. That's going to be the green that's getting hit by light, and it's got a moderate amount of water in it, and I am just going to go over the negative space, some of the trunk, and some of the other color that's there. I'm overlapping and underlapping all these spots. That'll make it seem airy enough. I'm also going to be doing some negative shape painting over this as well. Added a little bit of white to the gold color, and I'm adding more shapes on top. That's when you add white, you're adding opacity. Titanium white is much more opaque than a lot of other colors that I have on my palette, so I will use it to create texture and cover. Then you can tint on top of it. I don't want all of the trunk to show coming all the way down the tree. That'd be just silly. Okay, so I want a couple shapes on the tree to be bright, and they're going to be right in this area. Yellow, white, and gold. Okay, so I added more than a couple shapes. I got a little carried away, but it was fun and it looks good, so it's fine. Things can't always be planned. Or, you know, if you're planning everything, then you can't be spontaneous. Or I guess you could plan something and then that would just make it spontaneous when you go off plot. Go off the plan. If it's right, it's right. Okay, so I'm done with this brush now, I believe. I'm thinking yes, I'm done with that brush. Got lots of really stylish paintbrush strokes in this piece, which I am liking. The thing that attracted to me into this photo in the first place was these really cool white branches that extend in, they're not white, they're cool gray, but they extend into the surrounding trees, and I thought that was really neat. So what I'm gonna do, firstly, I need to make some of these branches in the top of the tree, which thankfully I still have some of this gray exposed. Make it a little cooler. That's fine. Just gonna pop some of this trunk forward. Pretty much the same gray as is used up top the tree. far as lightness is concerned, I'm just gonna add a little bit of blue to it to cool down that color. Good amount of white of water. Good amount of water in this paint so that the bristles control the action of the brush. A lot of these are really subtle and I like it. Okay, do I need any more negative shapes? In that foreground tree. Just gonna have to be careful, that's all. Anything lower than that's going to have darkness. I'm going to darken up these trees right here, just the bottoms. I feel like they're a little too bright. I'm just going to cover up any negative shapes that I painted down there as well. That's fine. I'm tinting the entire thing, glazing it, if you will, with our darkest color, which is that ultramarine green, ultramarine based green that we mixed at the very beginning. toning all this down, I don't want it to pull your eye. So adding some darker colors down there. Using similar brush strokes that are throughout this tree painting process. That looks better. I feel like there's a couple too many negative shapes on that tree, and it's bothering me. It's bothering me enough to address it. So I'm just going to cover up some of them. Not everybody, and not all of everybody, or all of the shapes, just some of the shapes. Overlap and underlap if you're choosing to do this. Just don't want all of this busyness to pull your eye away from the focal point. It just can't pull you. And you just have to look at it from a little further back. I don't want that to pull your attention. There we go, that falls more in line. Okay, I'm going to check my reference photo, make sure I represented all of my favorite aspects and didn't forget anything. I think this is nice. I like the feeling of it. As it dries, it'll change just a little bit, but not dramatically. I do like that tree. It's like softly catching the light. There isn't a lot of contrast there, but it's still, your eye goes straight up this tree into the soft warmth of the sun on the mountain, and then you kind of glide into the light source. I feel like that's the journey that your eye takes. It comes up to the mountain and then goes out that way. So all these lead lines just send you straight up. So you go straight up to where the glow is. So that's very pleasant and nice. So I hope you enjoyed this more traditional landscape scene. The next subject is up in the air. So that'll come later on this evening if I have time. I hope you enjoyed this painting process video, and until next time, happy painting.